Um, so welcome everyone to the November 18th Community Advisory Group Call. We've been terming these endearingly since I want to say April. So thank you to all of our security stakeholders that have been on this call consistently since April. We started out weekly and we got to monthly, and now I think we're at bi-monthly. But we all appreciate all of your engagement. As you all know, in the beginning, we also had U.S. Army Corps with us. They would give us the reports every week how they were doing. They are no longer with us. So I've begun to ask Caltrans to join us. They don't understand why I ask them, but as all of you know, they control Pacific Coast Highway, and that's such an important artery for us. So I've been asking them to join us. I wonder, you guys, next time we join, if you can impress upon them that it would be helpful if they're there. I've also asked the LADOT to join us because, you know, our roads and our mobility are going to become a really important part of our safety and security, you know, footprint. So maybe going forward, we can engage new agencies as we need them. But LAPD, Chief Woodyard, Captain Gabaldon, thank you so much for being with us every single time since the beginning. And Deputy Mayor Robert Clark, I think you're also on the call. Thank you. And thank you to the mayor's office for also being at our side through this entire process so far.
Mayor, it's good to see you.
Notably a year, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Notably almost a year into this thing. So here we come. And I think things are going to change after this first year. I think that we've already made the determination that the construction sites are going to be the challenge that we look at maybe the next year or so. But we thought we'd get together with all of you and get an update. We also have Captain Dominguez on the call. He is the new captain over at California Highway Patrol. So thank you for joining us. As always, I'll go around the horn. I'll have you all give your updates. And then if there are any community questions, we'll address those. The one thing I do want to share before we get off the call is that I think it was the last time we met. It was a couple of months ago. This group talked about coming up with guidelines, security guidelines that we would be able to share with the community so that construction sites and contractors and even homeowners would sort of have an idea of how to keep their sites secure so that we don't become an easy target and that the Palisades isn't sort of inviting for would-be wrongdoers. We have worked on that along with Steve and Robert Gold and Brian. I think LAPD, you've put in your 2 cents, but Brian also sort of made some suggestions that we worked into that document. I'm going to share that document on the screen before we end this call, and if everybody likes it, then we can start to make that available to the construction sites. So again, I thank you all, and I will hand the mic over to West LA Captain Rich Gabaldon. Again, thank you for joining us. And Captain Gabaldon, you can go around as you see fit. Give us your update. Maybe then you want to go to Chief Woodyard probably, and then maybe Deputy Mayor. So we'll go around, but you can start us off and let us know how it's going. Thank you.
You got it, Mariana. Thank you. It's good to see everyone. I know it's been about a month since we last met. Things are going, pretty smooth. I think, we pared down our footprint a little bit there. We went from 4 units, 1 unit in each sector plus the ACAR. We're down to 3 now. We're still getting commitments from the deputy chief for 3 units, 3 queen units, and our basic ACAR. And it's also still being supplemented with our beach unit when they're deployed. So looking good on that. We're still doing our roll calls at 7:30 at Will Rogers Beach, followed up at 1000 hours at the substation on Sunset for secondary roll call. And then we have our 1700 PM watch roll call again at Will Rogers Beach. So the deputy chief can chime in after me, but as far as my understanding is, this is the footprint we're going to be keeping at least for the next 30 days. We just started a new deployment period. So if anything would have changed, it would have changed by yesterday. And so we're remaining that same footprint. Our crime numbers are looking pretty good in the last, since we took over on June 14th, we've had 12 burglaries, 10 GTAs, 21 burglary theft for motor vehicles, and 23 thefts. So a total of 66 property crimes. That's compared, and it's not really a fair comparison to 2024, but that same time for those type of crimes, we had 143. So it's actually down 53%. Our overall Part 1 crime, violent crime, is down 52.7%. And we've only had 1 aggravated assault and no robbery since we've taken over. So we're looking good that way. In the last 30 days, we've had 2 burglaries, 2 GTAs, which is grand theft autos, 6 burglary from motor vehicles, and 3 thefts. And those burglary from motor vehicles has kind of been along those Los Leones trail. It's more, tourists or people or hikers leaving their cars open or leaving property that's visible inside there. We had deploy our ALPR trailer there, so we could track cars coming in and out of there. And we also have our 2 decoy cars, our patrol in that area. One at Sunset and Los Leones, and one at Sunset. Yeah, I can't read what it is, but they're both right there on Sunset, so they're out there. Trying to
Captain
think.
Gavalden, are the
Yes.
trails open?
I believe the trails have been open, yes.
They're kind of hard to block off.
They're kind of hard. There's really no way, successfully to close them. I mean, they can go around most barricades that are there. So we know that they have had some hikers up there, people walking around. And
So all trails across the board are open or not closed?
to my understanding, I'd have to check with the park rangers, but we haven't got any information that says that they are closed.
Okay, and then just a quick question. You separate out burglaries from cars and then regular burglaries. So a regular burglary is then from a home?
Yes, that'd be a residential or commercial. So either a home or a business. And then the burglary from motor vehicles are all just the vehicles that are getting broke into. But like I said, the numbers are real low. We're looking good crime wise. We've had some, and they don't show up on this, some trespass calls. Homeless individuals wandering on property, those type of calls. We don't really track those stats unless it develops into a little bit more of a crime, a part 1 crime. But I think the Queen units have been doing a good job of kind of shooing those people away, letting them know this is no trespass area. We have made a couple arrests, but not in the last 30 days. We haven't had to deal with it. So a lot of that might be weather driven as well. As you know, with the rains, everyone's concerned about evacuations, mudslides, floodings. We had to give mandatory evacuation. We did warnings, and then we did actually mandatory evacuations for 120 residents, mostly along Mandeville Canyon. I could say that no one left, even though they were mandatory. We told them they were mandatory. We weren't going to affect any arrests, but the majority of the people stayed. Some left and haven't come back, but the majority of them decided just to stay and shelter in place in their residence. We don't have the type of resources where we can actually effect an arrest for that, nor have we ever, as far as I know. It's kind of like, hey, this is mandatory evacuations. So if you don't go and something happens, it's on you. We're documenting that on body worn video that we've given the warning to the residents, and we also give them a flyer that explains, what their duties are to evacuate and where they can go. We had a shelter at Stoner Park. I don't even think we got anyone at the shelter, but it was open by the park rangers for that purpose. So that's kind of what's been going on the last 30 days. Like I said, we're going to still be moving forward with the same footprint. I'll let Chief Woodyard, if he has any insight from downtown or any additional information on that. The other divisions have been doing a good job of providing those resources. Everyone's short right now. So it's a big ask for the Bureau to get, an extra ACAR, take them out of like Pacific Division or Wilshire Division or Hollywood Division and have them send over to Pacific Palisades, especially when you look at the crime numbers and they're really low. But our Deputy Chief Woodyard has really been fighting to keep that footprint in there. And we're fortunate enough to have CHP is still assisting us up in that area. I'll let the captain talk a little bit about their security plan and their footprint, but we've been working in conjunction with them still for the last 30 days. And we have a good relationship with them. I don't know about the ticketing and stuff. I'll let the residents speak about that and how that's going. But that's pretty much my report, Scott. If you want anything else to add.
No, I don't know if Brian has anything.
I'll switch it over to the deputy chief and let him add it a little bit, Marianne, and then maybe we can go to Brian Espin, and he's a little bit more boots on the ground. And we also have another slow Gabe Cohen, who's kind of been filling in for Brian while he's been off. We're fortunate to have like an extra slow right now.
Okay.
He has a lot of experience as far as dealing with homelessness. So he's been helping us out in a lot of areas around the whole division. So Chief, you got anything you want to say?
No, I think you covered everything. But the reality is we have scaled back LAPD resources because it's a heavy lift for the entire Bureau, and there's some other areas that require those commands to maintain their resources in their area. So we have slowly started rotating and scaling back LAPD resources, but we're still in full support of West LA and specifically the Palisades. I will say that I'm very confident in the game plan that we've implemented. If you look at the crime we've averaged 0.64 crimes a day. And that's since we've broken down the checkpoints back in June. So it's about 0.64 crimes a day. That's less than a crime a day from our numbers. So again, if the community doesn't feel safe, that's another thing. But the reality is the numbers have been really low. And that's not just because of LAPD's presence. I think it's because we are connected with our security personnel that's out there, the community, the engagement from the community, and everybody working and pulling in the same direction. So I'm very confident that Rich Gavalden and his team have been doing a really good job. And of course, our partners from CHP as a secondary assignment have been rotating up into the Palisades. So again, those are my comments, unless there's some questions.
So we can move to Brian, but Chief Woodyard, we all sort of realize that these decisions are not always necessarily made only at the West LA level, right? You guys are speaking and the entire department is part of these decisions. If things change, and I know you've said all along that you'll be looking at the numbers, but if things change, does LAPD have a commitment to bring resources back to the Palisades as this recovery unfolds?
No, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, when you look at the city as a whole, let's just take the Palisades out of it. And because the reality is the numbers in LAPD across the board are low, but that's not an excuse. When crime rises up, we are very flexible in terms of rotating those resources from various parts of the city. We've done it before when I was in South Bureau. When there's a spike in crime, we have to be nimble. And we've done that in the past. Won't just be for the Palisades, but it's been for other parts of the city as well. So the Palisades have been the shiny object for the last several months, and that's why I've had our resources in the area, because the community, that was a request from me to make sure the community feels safe.
Okay, and then I know everybody's got questions. We're going to hear from Sharon too, and Arus is on the call, so lots of people. But you have always said to us that you have other security partners that are sort of in partnership with you, at least in the Palisades, just given the scale of this disaster and the longevity of the recovery. So CHP is obviously still here, but you've got sheriff and you've got, I'm sure, other partners in law enforcement. Are they also, do you talk to them? Like, are they also at hand for you in case things change in the Palisades and we need more support?
Obviously our allied partners will always be a resource, but primarily what I'm talking about is resources from LAPD, from throughout the city, from the various bureaus. So we have the Valley Bureau, we have Central Bureau, West Bureau, and South Bureau. So primarily those resources would be from LAPD specific, but because this is an unusual occurrence because of the fire, CHP has played a huge role with us. And again, in the early stages of this incident, everybody helped out. So thankful that CHP is continuing to be a great partner with us. But again, if something changes where the need arises, of course, we're always going to be looking at making adjustments. But right now, we're in the process of, and I just got full transparency. We have a game plan in place. If the numbers stay the way they are, we're going to we'll have to transition this back to West LA, and we've been very thoughtful, methodical with that. And so we'll make sure that West LA has the requisite resources to address any concerns for the Palisades.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Brian, you want to jump in?
Marion, one thing, and that was a great question you brought up. I am in contact with the Malibu sheriffs, and I think it was 2 weeks ago when I spoke with them, and I kind of gave them what our footprint is. They've completely scaled back their operation. They're back to just the regular patrol like they were before the fire. There's no queen units like we have. There's no extra crime suppression going on. They're just back to routine patrol, answering radio calls, and just being proactive from their deployment that they have out there, the regular number of cars that they're contracted with. So they have completely given up any type of crime suppression or extra patrol resources for them. So just for you guys to be aware, we're fortunate that we still have ours going with the additional resources, but because of the crime numbers, Same thing that we're saying, they're saying this just couldn't justify taking those sheriff resources from other areas that are contracted with them and putting them back in there. So that's kind of their footprint going forward is just back to normal operations. So we'll throw it over to Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Let me check and make sure he's still here. He was, but he might have left. I hear something, Brian Espin. Yeah. Well, Brian's on his iPhone, but maybe having some audio trouble. So, yep. So we can move CHP Captain Dominguez. Do you want to tell us what it looks like from your point of view?
Yes, good morning. So our office in the California Highway Patrol in Culver City is our hub, and we are currently deploying 8 officers on a 12-hour shift during the day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then an additional 8 officers from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. So we have 8 patrol cars that are out during the day, essentially, and 4 patrol cars that are out in the evening in the overnight hours. The daytime shift are averaging about 45 citations a day, and those are purely proactive enforcement citations for anything from speeding to DUI to any of the vehicle code violations that the officers cover. In the evening, they're averaging about 20 to 30 citations, depending on the circumstances. And with this rain, it really, they aren't writing a lot of tickets when it's pouring rain. But in that process of the proactive enforcement, what we're seeing is regular DUI, which is not so much from Palisades residents, but from traffic that goes through the PCH corridor. We've had some pursuits averaging about 1 a week through that PCH corridor. And then, of course, whenever we do stops, there's the connection of warrant arrests that happen out of those. So for every 20 citations, we're usually taking somebody for a outstanding traffic warrant or any type of crime warrant they may have. So going forward, I've been told there'll be no changes. This deployment that we're putting out in the Palisades far exceeds our regular patrol or matches at least our regular patrol for the Culver City area, which covers all of the west side and the 405, the 105, the 10 freeway. So we're still committed heavily with our resources to cover the Palisades for this duration.
Okay, thank you, Captain. I'm just wondering again, is it mostly traffic enforcement or is there crime suppression? Like, are you in touch with LAPD and kind of being a force multiplier for them out on the streets, or is it mostly traffic, the big arteries for traffic enforcement?
We are dual role. So we are crime suppression. Our officers, at times there's quite a few out there, and I don't want them standing by or not doing anything. So they know that if there's downtime, they're going to be writing tickets. When the weather is nice, the ticket increase goes up. When it rains, it comes to a near stop. So I think, jokingly, we say that if the Palisades, if the people going through there as the tourists or the people that are working through there, they know that we're there because if we make a stop, they usually have if it's expired registration or window tint, they've already got that ticket. But I don't want my officers just idly standing by. So they're out there proactively using their time to ensure that they're writing tickets or taking some type of enforcement. But their eye is keen on the suppression part as well. They know what to look out for if there's a crime in progress, and they have the ability to scan the channels for LAPD and the sheriffs as well.
Okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith here and ask, has anyone talked about the wisdom of ticketing people in a burn zone where people are sort of recovering from trauma and the last thing they need is an expensive ticket? Does that come up? Do you guys talk about, do these people really need this kind of traffic enforcement right now?
Yes, that conversation comes up. But as a manager managing this office, I've been given directive from way higher, much up top, that my officers are not to be sitting idle, and my officers are to be doing proactive enforcement. We're trying to mitigate that message. You are correct, because we are the local people. But at the same time, they know they can't come in with no productivity. meaning that they can't be sitting idle or, dare I say, just doing nothing. So yes, if we have pushed that message from our local side, as I can very tenderly say that we have pushed your message.
Okay.
We were greeted kind of by the opposite message as it comes down. So
We appreciate it.
we're trying to mitigate where we stand. Yeah.
Okay, great. We appreciate it. I'm going to open it up to questions as soon as we hear from all of officialdom, you guys. So Deputy Mayor Robert Clark, anything you want to add from the city or the mayor's point of view?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
First and foremost, let me say thank you to the LAPD and the California Highway Patrol. They have just done a tremendous job and over the several months that I've been here, and I really could not ask for better. Deputy Chief Woodyard and myself are talking at least every week or so about the priorities, about the numbers, about the stats. So the mayor's office continues to be very much engaged in what's happening in the Palisades. We were certainly very happy to see CHP return. So many thanks to the California Highway Patrol. I know that that's a lift for them, as they could probably be other places in the state, but we certainly appreciate their support in the Palisades and continuing to keep a strong law enforcement presence there. I want to give a special shout out to Deputy Chief Woodyard and Captain Gavard, because I know that they're juggling a lot in West Bureau, and continuing to keep the Palisades as a priority is certainly a juggle for them. So many thanks to you, gentlemen. I appreciate your leadership and certainly your work. Miriam, I would share with you that for the mayor, this continues to be a top conversation that we have weekly, not just on the recovery and the rebuilding and everything else that's happening in the Palisades, but more importantly, the increase in the quality of life in the Palisades and how things are returning to normal. I know that we are a long way off. The mayor knows that we're a long way off, but we are making progress. Things are getting built, permits are getting issued. We certainly continue to monitor and suppress the crime to the very best of our abilities. And I know there's going to be this continued focus from now till I can't even say when the end of it will be. But we will continue this posture, certainly continue these partnerships, and continue this focus on the priorities of not just safety and well-being in the Palisades, but the recovery and rebuilding in the Palisades, so that we can return to normal and people can return to their homes and all the other things that we need to make sure that happens up there. The school, the library, the stores, the businesses, and everything else that's happening up there. We're way ahead of schedule, as I think everyone knows, but that's been because of the collective work of a variety of partnerships and stakeholders who have come together and just focus on getting the work done. So, Miriam, thank you very much for your continued leadership, and more importantly, for continuing to hold us accountable, for being on these calls and sharing out what our priorities are and certainly what our next steps are. So I encourage you as well to just continue to hold us accountable, and we'll continue to get the work done with all of our stakeholders and partners, and just continue to message that to the community of the Palisades. So thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Clark. I appreciate that you've been on these calls pretty persistently or consistently since we started. I want to share, you were talking about looking ahead, how it's going to be a long road that, at the mayor's office, you all talk about, a continued commitment and all the departments sort of being at the ready and watching how things go in the Palisades so that resources can be brought here. I've been talking to Marianne Ensley about bringing department heads to the Palisades. I've offered the Palisades Recovery Coalition space because I think that it is helpful, or it would be helpful, if once a month this community knew that there's a department head coming to the Palisades to have a conversation about whatever is important. Looking ahead, I sort of wonder, can LADOT be available to us? Because as the recovery picks up, I think that the roads will begin to see some gridlock. I think that, as more people start to pour foundation or bring materials in to do their construction, it's going to be more and more challenging to get material in and out, to get, workers or trucks moving around our streets. It isn't challenging now because there aren't a lot of builds. As the bell curve increases and more people begin to build, I think the streets will pose a challenge. Can you reach out to LADOT, and can they be sort of responsive in case we do need to think about how the movement, sort of a master schedule for movement around our streets?
Of course, Miriam, that's an easy ask. I'll coordinate with Marion Ensley and others who are principal on the Palisades overall. And we'll make sure that that is messaged and invite them to attend and speak on that particular issue.
Okay, excellent. And I know Marianne's on the
Good
call.
morning.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes, good morning. Hi, good morning, DM Clark, and good morning, everyone. I wanted to jump in before I have to jump off, but as you all know, I am part of the Mayor's Office of Infrastructure, and I just spoke to our team to also confirm we will get some folks from LADOT to join some upcoming calls. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Marianne. You've been a consistent source of support and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Arus is on the call, but I'm going to hand the call over to Sharon because she works closely with LAPD. She's another community leader who's been consistent for about a decade on the homelessness front, but now so much more. So I know Sharon's got some reporting that she can do.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I just want to let you all know that the Pacific Palisades Task Force on Homelessness has partnered with LAPD, like Miriam said, since 2016. And we're very unique. I think we're the only community that has something like this where we work closely with this unbelievable beach detail, especially one officer, Officer Margin, which I have to give extreme kudos to because he leads the operation. At present time, we have just 2 beach detail officers. The 2 others are out on family leave and one is on vacation, but I think Adam just got a new partner this week, which is great. We didn't have any results from January to May because most of our volunteers lost their homes, which was very bleak for us, and our LAPD partners were doing other things. So since May, we've started compiling the data, which I had sent out to most of all of you LAPD officers on this call. And I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what we have found. This is just LAPD has actually found 224 encampments in the period of time from May to October, to the end of October, which we have proactively cleaned up. So that is like amazing. They've also had 29 citations/arrest. And that seems to be picking up a lot more now because Santa Monica Police Department, which is right on our border, is now doing more enforcement on their unhoused individuals. So this week alone, I mean, Sunday and Monday, we had 2 felony arrests. So we're getting a lot more push of individuals into our area. That's what I'm kind of seeing because I'm seeing more enforcement from Santa Monica down on the beaches. So I just want to thank you all for your continued partnership because without you, we would be in a world of hurt. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Sharon. 240 encampments. So in the burned hillsides, you are still seeing homeless people?
No, this is more so along the beaches, but yes, we have found, like the day we did the all agency enforcement, we found 7 abandoned.
I'm going to mute everybody. Sorry. Go.
We had 7 abandoned encampments. We didn't find any individuals, but we did find stuff to clean up. So we got rid of those. So just on that one day. So we do find them sporadically in the hillsides, but not like previously. We do have a few unhoused individuals that are continually trespassing into the Palisades Bowl area. And going through and camping in the pool area. We've had the same individual twice. We've also found that individual up in the Tremonto area. So there are a few that are, keep coming back and going into trying to squat on properties that are, not occupied at this time, going through remediation. So, but we know who the individuals are, and that's why it's so important to have the same officers here all the time because they know the individuals, and they're also checking those flock cameras, cameras that we have in, and getting a lot of information from individuals that are coming in by car in the middle of the night into properties, working with Palisades Patrol and getting some good intel on that. There's one individual that keeps coming in and out and is suspected of being, burglarizing a lot of the homes while they're dormant. So it's a good thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, so much. Literally for 10 years of keeping your eye on the comings and goings of unhoused individuals and keeping your relationship great with successive captains and SLOs and LAPD. So really, really appreciate it. I remember the early days of this effort, so thank you. I also remember that we used to say, we used to say that we're in between Malibu and Santa Monica, that Santa Monica can be proactive and push their homeless people up towards us, LA. And sometimes the sheriff is proactive up in Malibu, pushes them down towards LA. And then so here we are. So yeah, again, thank you all for keeping your eye on that. And we're happy to hear from you all the time. Arus is on the call. I also want to share that joint document, maybe hand it over to Steve to talk about for a second. So, and I know you all might have questions. So let's hear from Arus and then we'll do questions and I'll share that document on the screen while we still have LAPD. That'll be a good thing to do. Arus, anything new from you?
Hi, thanks everybody. And I want to thank and give shout out to Sharon as well for organizing the Hillside Task Force. Very productive day and operation. And I do want to second what she said about our LAPD beach detail officers, always ready and always available to enforce and communicate with the community members. We do appreciate that a lot. I also wanted to mention that we do have a couple of properties that are declared nuisance, and we are currently keeping an eye on those properties and making sure that we do not get any crimes over there. But the most challenging one to deal with is Palisades Bowl, as you mentioned, Sharon. Craig and I are communicating with the property owners. We did get to the point where we had to sort of push them to sign trespass arrest authorization forms. Our meetings with them are continuous. We bring up a lot of issues to their attention, and we'll make sure to continue to advocate for a safer fence for security over there so we don't get trespassers. Another property that has been getting attention is Sunset and Castle MR. It's the apartment that has been declared nuisance. We're also keeping an eye on that. We have the Jack in the Box as well. And lastly, we did have a Care Plus operation at the parking lot near Gladstone's. There is an unhoused person over there, and we've cleaned a lot. I know Sharon organized a cleanup over there too, but I do want to mention that the individual is suffering from mental health issues. He had trash. He is creating a hoarding situation, and he also had bottles of urine over there. So we're planning to move forward and see what our next steps are, and probably removing the vehicle. One thing I would ask from the community members is that please do not donate your furniture to him. That is creating much more hazard, and we don't want to have that much bulky items or mattresses or anything like that given to him. He's not going to put them anywhere. He's leaving them in the parking lot or in a public right of way. So we're going to continue working on that as well. I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, if you need anything, please let us know.
Thank you, Arus. What is up with the Palisades Bowl? I know you're working on it, but any idea when you think they're gonna clear before the 1 year mark?
Craig is in charge of communicating with them, but they are getting a little more unwilling to cooperate and come to meetings with us. And I believe now there is a litigation between the lot owners and the mobile home owners. Their legal team is advising not to really get involved with the city. So once there's a legal battle, our role becomes less influential, and the lawyer's role becomes more influential.
Right.
I do
have
not
they been-
directly go to the meetings. Craig is there most of the time. The only time when I communicated with them alongside Officer Adam Margin was when they had to secure the lot, put the fence, and then give us the trespass arrest authorization form.
Got it. Do you know if they've been fined as a public nuisance?
They haven't been fined yet. They have been declared nuisance, and we're waiting for building and safety to give us the next steps, what they're going to be doing. It is at this point, we cannot treat them as the vacant buildings or nuisance properties in the city of LA. It can't go to the same code enforcement process. Where the department is communicating with the council office, and I believe with the mayor's office as well, to see what the next steps would be, because it's not only Palisades Bowl. We do have single family homes and commercial lots that are declared nuisance. One of the properties that we keep an eye on is in Upper Rivera. It's the San Onofre property, and they also have a legal, they have a lawyer. So we are kind of waiting to hear from the department, and we cannot intervene and get meetings or information from the property owners once their lawyers are involved.
Okay. Okay, got it. Thank you so much, Aruz.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for a lot that you do, all that you do, and now this on top of it. You've also been spearheading the cleanup of all the little green water catchers.
Yes, thank you. I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell all of you guys, Palisades Drive will be a staging area for our green drainage SOx materials cleanup for BMPs and also sandbags. You will not be seeing dumping on Palisades Drive anymore. We are working closely with LA Sanitation to make sure dumpsters and staging area becomes the only useful method of getting rid of all the materials. Our LACC team has removed 140 cubic yard of materials from Palisades Drive, which should have never happened. But from now on, our team is keeping an eye on it to make sure that type of incident doesn't happen. We are also communicating with Recreation and Parks because the community members brought to our attention some invasive trees, vegetation, and we're talking to them to see either urban forestry or Recs and Parks maintenance takes care of it. Our LACC teams are on Sunset right now. Their task was to clear Sunset, and they've been delayed because of Palisades Drive for 2 weeks. We have redirected them to Sunset, and they are going to clean Sunset, both sides of Sunset Boulevard between Pampas Ricas and Palisades Drive. I do have our CRCD teams. However, they are working only on Mondays, and I can only send them to take care of the area Mondays only. So if you have any requests, try to send it to me during the weekday so I can put it on the sheet for Monday cleanup. Thank you so much. And Miriam, thank you for inviting us to the event. The councilwoman is planning to stop by for the expo on the 23rd.
Wonderful. You're the best, Aruz. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. That was quite a report and a lot being done by you. Clearing Sunset on both sides of the street from Pampas Ricas to Palisades Drive is a massive lift, so thank you. Okay, Karen Ridgely has her hand up. We're going to go to questions. Steve, I'm going to share that document if that's okay, and we can remind everybody how we got there. Captain Gabaldan, quick question, or Chief Woodyard, you said you're scaling back. You used to have like the 5, you had divided Palisades up into 5 areas. You had a car for each area. You're pulling back to what? Just how many cars or what kind of area?
So we only lost 1 car. We had 1 car for each of the 4 sectors, supplemented with the basic A car and then the beach unit as well. Now we're just going with 3, and so we're having those units overlap and pick up that extra sector. But that's all we've gone down.
Okay, so you still have the
1
basic car, you still have the beach detail, you just have 3 cars instead of 4.
Exactly.
And basic car never gets pulled away. That's the.
No, we're always going to have that 24/7. The base car, the beach. Obviously they start at 5 in the morning, so they're till 3 in the afternoon, and that's primarily on the weekends they're working.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go to questions and then I'll share this document. Or maybe can I share the document and then we'll go to questions? Karen, give me 1 second. This will be quick. So hopefully it's the right screen. Yes. Okay, folks, so we came up with this guidance. It doesn't necessarily have to look like this. I'm hoping that it has Team Palisades and Pali Recovery Coalition and LAPD and PPCC and PPRA, everybody who agrees. But basically, if you'll all look at your screen, it's what we came up with based on the phone calls that we've been having about keeping Palisades safe as we rebuild. So this is really aimed at the construction sites because you guys had told us that there are some burglaries happening or some just, bad actors on the construction sites. So basically it says, who's this for? It's for homeowners, builders, subcontractors, and crew members. Brian said that he'd be happy to go out and do a site assessment. So to do a security assessment of people's construction sites, he said they could reach out to him. So it starts out with just the ability to reach out to Brian and say, hey, we're beginning construction. Can you come out and do a site assessment? And then the rest of it is stuff that came up in these calls. So construction location, we ask people to post the site security plan, to fence and gate the space, to post lights, to have like motion sensor lights, and to keep your neighbors kind of, especially if they're standing homes, keep your neighbors aware of what's going on and give them contacts to be able to reach out. We're asking people to not idle their cars, but we're also asking people to lock their cars, not to be an easy target. The whole idea is not to get would-be wrongdoers to think they can come to the Palisades and find easy targets. So it's lock your stuff, lock your cars, trailer security. Cameras and connectivity. I think you probably all know Jessica's working on an additional set of LPR cameras. She did get some funding, some from PPCC to add cameras. So hopefully that's going to help, but we are asking construction sites to invest in their own camera systems. So site cameras, license plate readers, internet connectivity on the site. So if something goes wrong, somebody who's on the site is able to reach out through internet and inform LAPD. Share access and post alerts. Tools, we ask people to lock up their tools at the end of the day, to have an inventory of what they own and what they don't own, have a check-in and check-out system, and keep the areas well lit with cameras covered, with cameras kind of covering the area. We ask people to kind of have a checklist so that when they leave at the end of the day, somebody is responsible to lock everything up and to always have kind of a point of contact that they make either the community or nearby standing homes aware of. Obviously, call LAPD if something happens. We also provide the LAPD email if it's not an emergency. And then it's don't operate in a silo, which is what you guys often say to us, that we're safer when we kind of look out for each other. And then we kind of provide this checklist, right? Lock your fence, lock up your tools, make sure your cameras are up and running, make sure there's internet and lights powered. So that's basically the directive. Steve, chime in when you want. I'm going to go to questions. Karen and then Michael and then Lori. Karen, Michael, Lori.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I really just wanted to say to Arus and to the city sanitation group that my street, Northfield, which is the lowest point in elevation for 88 acres, I was told when it was draining, was cleaned like a whistle. It was so good. I have not seen it with all the storm drains. They added about 4 on my block to take care of the excess water that used to build up. And I have not seen it so clean in years. And I just wanted her to know that they had done that effectively before the rains. And I appreciated it very much because that point has been a place of real problems until they replaced some of the storm drains and added 4 more. Thank you so much for getting it cleaned up. I've asked for that 4 times, and this is the first time it was cleaned like that. So thank you.
Thank you, Arus.
Karen. So the EMDs were fully activated during this rainy weather, and I believe they're still activated. Bureau of Contract Administration was in Palisades on Saturday as well, checking all of the clogged areas. So we did get a good response from the city. Whatever we brought up to their attention, they've sent, like 5 minutes later, I saw LA Sanitation and Bureau of Contract Administration come up and clear all the catch basins and the storm drain system. So I'm very happy to hear this, and I'll share this with Councilwoman. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Yes, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, Michael, yes, thanks very much, Arus. Michael.
Thank everyone here who's so committed to helping our community's safety and security. It's really been much appreciated by thousands of people. The two minor, or maybe not so minor questions. One is, Miriam, that's a great idea, having that bulletin issued to everyone about safety and construction sites. Would there be a way of distributing that to supervisors of the sites and then giving the city a copy to give when they issue new permits, so it can
that's a
be
great idea.
propagated? That's one thought and question.
Can I answer it quickly?
Sure.
So I'm actually trying to come up with the latest version that we had that had everybody's logo on it. So it had PPRA and Team Palisades and PPCC. I was just waiting for a sign off. But yes, our idea was to distribute that broadly and to also send it to the city. I very much like the idea of sending it to the planning department and having it be issued along with permits. We'll work with the mayor's office on that. I think you know that they're open to these sorts of ideas. So thank you for that, Michael.
Thank you. Another thing is that could be broadcast periodically on different email campaigns that people send out, because there'll be more and more, and there'll be new buyers and new real estate agents. It's going to continue to increase through the next 2 years. Second thing is good suggestion, having security cameras on each site. If those were flock based, am I wrong in assuming it's possible they could give the lead or whatever you call the feed to the city, so Officer Espin would have access to the information instantly, or everybody would, when there's a license plate identified as possibly related to some nefarious behavior? If you've got those cameras all over the place, you might be, what is that, casting a wider net, but also a more comprehensive one.
Good question. So Captain Gabaldon, if private people were to employ flock cameras and give you access to that feed, or have an understanding with you that you can see that feed, does that work for you? Is that a force multiplier for you?
You're muted, Rich.
I don't think he's saying anything yet. Chief Woodyard, do you know the answer? If people
Hey, Rich,
employ...
you're muted, but absolutely. Anytime
Okay.
we can have access to your cameras, that's always helpful for the investigative part of it. So absolutely.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, some technical difficulty. Yeah. So, cameras are great. Having access to them, it's really been a game changer here in West LA. We continue to get homeowners associations from all over. Probably Scott is writing 15-2s like monthly for, ALPR type cameras that they're putting up in their areas and stuff. And we've really had some great success stories, especially with the burglaries. So having access to them is key. And then having that relationship with our detective commanding officer, I'd like to get him on one of these calls too, kind of talk about, some of the success stories that we've had with the flock cameras and ALPR, and having that relationship with detectives where they know someone that they can call to get access to them is key. So I think that's great.
Maybe a mechanism could be put in place with Flock where they have a particular dedicated email address or phone number that contractors or private parties building could reach out to and arrange for their camera to be installed on their property. So it'd be much more efficient. They could even have a special price for Palisades residents, because it would be good for their future business as well as the community security.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And I know we have contacts, so I could send you some information of our contacts that we have with Flock if you want to reach out to them.
That would be great. And then we could have Jessica spearhead it, because she's organizing a lot more cameras with them. So
Yep. That sounds like a great idea.
Thank you.
And Steve, I know that Team Palisades works on getting discounts, right, for Palisadians. So maybe this is another area where they can work.
Thank you. My second thought or question is, I've heard increasingly people getting flat tires from nails from construction sites. And I know there's a municipal ordinance about keeping public access areas free of construction site stuff. Is there some way in which that could be, if not monitored, at least made more visible to people that it's technically, I think, against the law for them to have construction things like nails spread out in the street, which people are running it more and more of them. It's going to be a bigger challenge down the road.
Who's
And
gonna?
that's just an observation question. I don't have an action item. And my third one is, I don't know if it's within the purview of the police, but there've been more and more people bumping into the increasing number of, it's not even called potholes anymore. I don't know what you'd call them, but the damage done by the debris removal has now accelerated in a great magnitude through the rains. And you have some intersections that you have to go, if you don't go around it, it's huge. And when the construction increases, it's only going to exacerbate it.
Right. So that Arus, you might be able to, so we brought that up to the mayor's office. Because the mayor's office said that they'd like to do, so you've heard this, Michael, before. They say, we're not going to make a great investment in the street surfaces because they're going to take a beating over the course of the next 10 years, or however many years. But we do say that they're terrible now, right? And they're going to get increasingly bad as heavy machinery keeps going over and over these roads. So we've been told that there can be a task force in place that does quick fixes. So you guys know this terminology better than I do, but not a full slurry, but they will come and they'll fix really bad potholes. I think that's just something we should put on their radar. It seems to me that Arus is on top of that kind of stuff. So let's talk to the council office. Yeah, I see her thumbs up. But yeah, we're not going to be able to do nothing. I totally agree with you. I think the roads took a beating during the debris clearance, and they're going to continue to take a beating. And maybe it doesn't make sense to come in and totally fix the road, but we're not going to be able to rebuild if we have increasing numbers of potholes, or as you say, they're not quite potholes. They're a little bigger than that. So, I'm happy to help. I think other people on this call are happy to help spearhead that so that we don't have pockmarked roads for the next few years.
One thing I would ask everyone, if you can report them to the 311 system, please still use that system and forward the service request number to us, so we can add them to a sheet. There was a sheet created and shared with BSS, but we were waiting for the IEM report. So, but I do agree with all of you. There are areas that could use some patches and repairs moving forward. We'll bring it up to the department's attention for sure. But please don't forget to report it to 311.
Okay. LAPD, is this something that your guys can help with? I mean, they drive around the streets. If there's a road that looks really bad or a pothole that just keeps growing, I'm sure it would be helpful to have your voice as we go to get some resources.
Yeah, Miriam. So yeah, it's kind of trying to identify the areas. So if certain community members have a certain area that's bad, if they can send it to Brian, or they can send it to myself, or send it to the beach deal even, we can put in 311 request, and then once we do that, we will take that incident number that gets generated from that. We will send it to a Rus, and then try to contact Bureau of Street Surfaces as well, and then they will know about trying to fix that area. But obviously, going to every single street and area and kind of not knowing like what the more damaged ones are is going to be like a timely thing. But if there's certain community members that have those blocks, their areas that they know, send us a quick email just so we can kind of identify that, and then we can send someone over there to actually check it out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Lori, then Steve. Thank you, Michael. Lori, then Steve.
Thanks, Miriam. Okay, a few comments and then one question. First, I want to say thank you so much for your continued support. It's really encouraging. My daughter goes to Calvary Christian Christian school, and whenever I see the LAPD cars there, I just have a sense of I'm just relieved to see that you still, a good presence there. So thank you for that. I'm encouraged also by the PCH arrests that you talked about one pursuit a week, but picking up DUIs and crime suppression. Really appreciate that. Miriam, thank you to your team also for what you put together, because on the PPCC call the other day, one of our board members or alternate board members had 3 properties burglarized that she's rebuilding. And so I think that the document you guys have come up with is going to be super helpful as people begin to rebuild, myself included. Okay, so what I was
that Bonnie Burchett?
Yes, exactly. It was heartbreaking to hear her talk about that. It was, and I've driven now by her place and I feel so badly. Also shout out, thank you for the great arrest on October 12th. We had just come out of church and we saw LAPD rushing up Palisades Drive, and it was really encouraging to know that resulted in an arrest. I think it was a burglary from a car, maybe something like that. But anyway, it resulted in arrest, and we were really happy about that. So my question is, have there been, aside from on PCH, have there been any other arrests made in the community?
So we have made arrests up there, not a lot. I think that the last one we made is the one you're talking about, is a burglary for motor vehicle suspect. And then we ended up going in pursuit of those suspects and catch them in another division. We have made trespass arrests. We have made a couple burglary arrests, the people breaking into unoccupied homes. But the arrest numbers are very low because we're just not getting a lot of crime up there. But we have made it. We have also made some trespass arrests. We've taken individuals, not necessarily for trespass, but maybe detain them for that, and then they turn out that they have warrants. So we'll book them on their warrants. So yeah, we have done it more along the beach, but also up in the Palisades area. And we'll continue to be proactive and make arrests when crimes are committed, because we want to have I say zero tolerance policy, but we want to make sure people know that if they're in that area where they're not supposed to be, and even if they're trespassing and they're looking around properties, that we find someone to take them to jail, we'll take them to jail.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Captain.
So I see Steve. I'm going to give you, Steve, it's your turn, but I quickly want to say, because I just remembered something. LAPD, last week when I was at the Pali Recovery Coalition, 2 police officers came to go to the stop-in station. So my assumption still is that they're rotating. It's not the same officers who are coming to the Palisades. They're rotating. It's what you can borrow from other divisions. So they had come to the stop-in station because they thought that there would be a workstation there, that there might be a computer and a landline, and he would be able to make a report. So when I explained that it isn't like that, there is no LAN, right, landline that you guys talk about. You'd have to set up if you had a proper stop-in station or a substation. He said, oh, okay, then I have to go all the way downtown to make this report. And that seemed to defeat the whole purpose. We were talking about maybe being able to keep people up here. So just wanted to share that with you in case it is possible to make it so that they're not just stopping in to sit down and have a sandwich, but also to actually, have a productive working hour there.
I think he didn't have to go downtown to make the party. He probably had to come to West LA.
To West LA.
Yeah. So that's something we're looking at. This isn't, there's a definition of, quote, what an actual substation is, and compared to a stop-in station. A substation actually has the landline and the phones, and that has to get approved at a higher level than us. I would love it for them to have a computer and phone, be able to work there, go back and be on the system, be able to go into our land system and do the report right there. Even just having that vehicle out front or in the parking lot that people see it is a deterrent. But hopefully that's something we can look forward to. Is
it worth it to pursue that?
I think it is. I definitely think it is. Substations are kind of a big deal to get one in an area, like I said. As opposed to a stop-in station, which this is where you can just go, use the restroom, eat lunch, congregate. But moving forward, let's look into it and let's see if that's something we can do.
All right, Chief Woodyard, I remember one of the commissioners thinking it was a good idea. So just, maybe we can have this conversation, figure out how to push this forward. Okay, Steve, Karen.
Karen now or Steve?
Steve.
Hi. First of all, thank you to Well, I want to just amplify the thanks to Chief Woodyard, Captain Gabaldon, CHP Joe Dominguez, and everything that's happened, with the city in terms of the support to date, knowing that this is, we're having to think outside the box a little bit. And these are, this catastrophe ever since January 7th has created a whole new paradigm for the way we have to handle things within the city. So we thank you. I do want to mention something that that Dr. Robert Clark mentioned that, that we appreciate the mayor's support, but I also want to just, echo and also amplify the fact that we're a long way from normal. He mentioned normal a couple of times, and I think we are very far from that. And I guess this is sort of to the room, and as we sit in this situation here, AECOM has had a change of leadership and has not published their report, which kind of goes back to what Miriam was saying earlier about getting DOT and people like that. And without any sort of published report, we're sort of in the dark about how things are moving forward in terms of control of as construction increases, vehicle traffic increases. And I'd like to know kind of, maybe this is a Chief Woodyard question, has the city started talking about, building an evacuation plan? And I know that seems really far down the line, but it's better to be doing things, ahead of the time that these are needed than after the time that they're needed. And, I want to know if there's any thoughts on that. And also, this is another question for Chief Woodyard. When I met you a couple months back, you mentioned that there was a volunteer program that they have in Encino, and I would love to start putting that. That's basically a neighborhood watch on steroids, where volunteers of the community are driving around in cars, and sort of a observe and report sort of system. And how would we as a community put that in motion here in the Palisades, and knowing that this is going to take some funding and it's going to take time, but I'd love to start, getting that together and starting to move forward on that. And then lastly, I just want to mention that from Mr. Edlin earlier, myself and Robert Gold are having a call this morning with Flock Cameras, their regional salesperson this morning, and we'll discuss what you talked about, what you were asking about, and how that might work. And so that's something that we'll talk about. And that's basically it. I want to also say thank you to Miriam for partnering with me and doing that deep dive on this document that we worked on and shared. And I think that all of us care deeply about what this community, and I think that what we're really trying to work on is some sort of a instead of a reactive sort of environment, a more of a proactive environment. So creating this sort of air of, hardening the job sites, increasing the communication. And, again, let us know, maybe this is an offline conversation about what we can do to, creating the substation and creating a place for your officers to be, because, we genuinely appreciate the presence that we have in the Palisades, and how we can best partner moving forward. And so maybe this is an ongoing conversation that we should schedule later. But that's it for me.
My apologies. I think Rich Gabaldon and his team is already looking into bringing, and I forgot the term, is volunteers in the, what is it called, Rich?
Community patrol?
Yeah, community patrol. So the Valley Bureau has a robust communities and patrol program. And so it's going to take, it's going to take cars, it's going to take a lot of different moving parts, and Rich is looking into that. And then the first question, because you had, what was the first question?
It was a lot, so I apologize. It was really about if there's any sort of movement, and we started putting together any sort of evolving any sort of evacuation plan,
Gotcha.
And how that might be implemented.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. In fact, we just had an exercise a month ago over in the Hollywood division, when I brought all the captains participated in an evacuation plan. with the fire department, all our allied agencies, council district, things of that nature. And then we had an opportunity to actually put that into place with these recent rains. And so we're keenly aware that the evacuation is the key to success whenever we have a fire or any natural disaster. My apologies, my throat is messed up here. Or any type of natural disaster. And so we're training it, and we're working that muscle memory. And so, yeah, that's something that we're aware of. We've actually are being proactive in it, and we'll continue to do that. So, and we're working with our partners, fire department, and of course, that's going to be the success, is that we work collectively with them, and we're excited about at least where we are now compared to where we were in the past, and I'm excited about that. Rich, you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, so one of the things we do with the training is using the Genesee app, which is kind of key. You know, it shows the evacuation, if evacuation areas, if we designate those, and you know, working in conjunction with the fire department. I think that's going to really help. The problem with the fire was, you know, we didn't get those evacuation warnings. We didn't have really any time to kind of front load it and get people moving. And I think that's something big lesson that we learned is when there's potential, identifying, like the chief said, with the floods, identifying the areas early. We started 2 days before the rain even came with the warnings, like, hey, you're in the area, this area might flood or there might be debris. And then when the rain really started coming down hard, we already knew the locations were out there, and we were able to give the mandatory evacuations. That's something we didn't have the opportunity to do with the fire. And using that app and being able to communicate with the fire department and being on the same page is going to be key, because that wasn't one of the things that we had when we had with the fire. It was just us kind of talking at the command post and trying to figure out the areas. But now we're a lot more coordinated. We know the evacuation routes, and even with CHP, you know, now we're working with them. There's a way that we can get Pacific Coast Highway flowing actually both lanes, north and south, in one direction to get people out to the freeway, either south or get them out to the north, and the same with Sunset. So we are working on plans. If something like this was to happen again, putting stuff in place early, and then when stuff does happen, more spontaneous, all being on the same page. So we know these evacuation routes and how to get the most people out as fast as we can. So we definitely are working on it and moving forward. And I know with the chief's support, we are going to be doing a lot more evacuation drills. We're actually having an evacuation meeting with the Brentwood community on Thursday with the senior lead officer, where we're going to discuss a lot of these same things. So a lot of plans in motion, and we are working to get together with each of the communities to come up with the best practices. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay. Can I just jump in one last time? We would love to partner with you guys, because I think that if we've learned anything through this, is that partnering with the community and us working with the city services gives us the best chance of success. You know, because you have a global responsibility, but a lot of us are like boots on the ground within the community, and I think that the best way to make this work all the way across the board is that we can be a community partnership. And you know, as we move forward, I would love the Palisades to be a model community for the city, right? And this is something that, you know, we feel very strongly about. But I'll shut up now. Thank you.
We love you, Steve. Never stop throwing out your fabulous ideas. I just want to say there's at least a handful of people on this call that have been on PPCC for a good decade, for at least as long as I have. And I can honestly tell you guys that for years and years, successive captains before you, Captain Gabalda, honestly, years and years, we have said we need evacuation drills because our roads are few, they are narrow, it's a lot of hillsides, there are dead ends, it's going to be hard to evacuate. We've always been told that it'll be orderly, and we've believed that. I'm not being critical, we've believed it. You know, we've always been told by every captain that LAPD will know what to do, they will successively go down streets and they're going to evacuate people and we'll know what to do. And I think some of us kind of looked at the roads and thought, how is that even possible? Like on a good day, people drive at different speeds, they have different instincts. You know, how is it going to be easy? And then, you know, fast forward to the day, which I hope never happens again, but the entire place had to get evacuated. And it just wasn't easy. It wasn't even easy for law enforcement to get up into the streets to tell people to get out. So I want to say again, I think it's a good thing to invest in evacuation drills. Some of you know that we had the chance to speak to the mayor on Sunday. She came to PRC. She was kind enough to sit down with about 25 people. And, you know, we said to her, we had asked for evacuation drills. We had just never gotten them because we were told they were too expensive. And I know she's the mayor, like, you know, I know she's not managing every department in a micromanaged way, but she sort of looked at me like, really, it was too expensive to do. And it was sort of like looking around and realizing what had happened, you know, what we were now going to be funding in this recovery, and sort of thinking that an ounce of prevention might have been a good idea. So as we go forward, I do want to say, I think evacuation drills are something that it's just a good investment for us to do. Maybe you can't do the entire community in one shot. You start on a hillside or with one area. But it's a good investment to make. Everybody will not know what to do. Everybody won't move at the same pace. So giving us a little bit of a chance every year to learn what we would do as residents if we were under pressure and had to make quick decisions is probably a really great idea. And if you're doing it with Brentwood, it's just as easy to extend it a little bit over to the Palisades. Okay, so that's it. That's my soapbox. I think we'll take Karen, Michael, and then we'll call it a day. Thank you all.
Okay, let me see if okay, I am unmuted. I just wanted to add my 2 cents for the evacuation drill. I live on Northfield Street, and I think I tried to leave my house at about something like 12:30, and I live only 4 blocks from Bowdoin, which is the road that goes from Sunset across to the high school, and then down Bowdoin to Temescal Canyon Road to get to PCH. It took me an hour and a half to go 4 blocks because it was so congested on the evacuation route. So it's not only the hills, it's the flats, because as Miriam said, we only have 2 routes that go east-west to get us to safety. And those were already clogged. When I just came out of my driveway, which is, I'm in a little canyon below street level, when I got to the top of my driveway, it was total gridlock. Honest to God, total gridlock. And I thought that I would be able to maybe cut across the alley that is opposite my house to get to Sunset and do better. But I got to Sunset and it was, you know, just 2 lanes of clogged and gridlock. And the officer there told me to go back to the side streets down there where I was on Northfield. And so I went 1 block further south, tried to go again east to Bowdoin, and all of those flats were so congested. One of the problems I want to bring up is that cars parked on our narrow streets on the left and on the right leave only a single lane to evacuate. So when you're having evacuation, whereas that width of a street, if there were no cars parked on it, it would have provided 2 and even 3 lanes evacuation down these narrow little side streets to be able to then converge into one single street, Bowdoin, which could have taken 2 lanes of traffic, except that we had all been funneled in a single lane the whole way. So,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
signs about parking need to be done too. But
Okay.
that wasn't really what it's going to start at. Let me just mention a couple of short things. I wanted to thank Arus for one of the potholes that was filled at Muskingum and Northfield. It was severe, big. So somebody's taking care of some of them. We appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is preventatively. I've heard a lot of complaints about people who try to make reports and they either don't know how or they find it difficult to make reports online about crime. So maybe somehow briefing us on how to do that in one of our public meetings, Marion, you know, on how to do that more easily or making the process easier. And the last thing I want to say is when we talk about prevention, it has been my experience in the 6 years that I've been on the council as a rep that in my area, so few of the posted laws that protect us along the fire areas of the bluffs were enforced preventatively, that, you know, we still have worries about fire along those bluffs that are not getting any attention now as things grow. So how about dispatch? Has that been improved in terms of not having to wait 45 minutes to get a call answered. That is a key problem. Anyway, I'll
Okay.
end there. Thank you.
No problem. It's 10 to 11, so we'll end there. Captain, if you later, let's see what Michael has to say. If you later want to talk about the speed of dispatch and, response times, happy to hear from you. Michael, they'll close us out. Thank you.
I just wanted to comment that after the mayor's meeting, and I discussed that evacuation drill with a number of people, it was pointed out to me that it might be vastly better to delay the process until there are more people that have moved back in to evacuate. Because even though their houses are standing, they haven't gotten through the battle with insurance to get remediated. So there aren't very many people, excepting in the Huntington, Riviera, and the Highlands. Just a thought.
That's a good point, Michael. And just as far as dispatch goes, I know we're trying to hire as many, but we are down. We had our assistant chief Tingrides from Office of Operations. I spoke to a community group on the west side, and she reiterated that we're trying to hire more people, but time it really 311 is pretty much 35 to 40 minutes. You're going to be on hold, and part of the problem is if people don't stay on hold, then we don't get that information, and then people. If you got what we're asking is just wait, please, because then we have something to go by. It's a stat that says, hey, this is continuing to take 45 minutes. If you hang up, then there's no record of us getting that call or how long it took. And then it's when we go ask for resources, the numbers aren't jiving. People are saying, hey, we can't get through. We need more dispatch. And they'll be like, wait a minute, we only had 4 calls in that area for 311.
Right.
So, well, I ask that you do stay on. I know it's painstaking. But if you stay on and get through, then we have a record to show that, hey, this is how many calls we're getting and this is how long it's taking. We have to prioritize this and hire more 911 operators and more police service representatives. So
Can't that be done by volunteers? We've had several people through this last year try to volunteer to help the police in any way they can. Does it have to be an employee?
it does for that system. It has to be an employee. They don't allow volunteers there in the
Got it.
in the 911 area, and it's pretty extensive training and probationary period because they're counter trained, so they go back and forth. So when someone calls in sick, a 911 operator, but we have someone that was supposed to man the 311 and they have to backfill, they take that 311 operator and they put them over to the 911 for emergency.
Sure.
So that's kind of the pool where they're pulling everyone. So sometimes you might end up with just one 311 operator for the whole city. That's why the wait times get longer and longer. So when they're trying to backfill, I know it's a priority for the mayor. I know it's a priority for the chief, but that's probably the biggest complaint I get as a captain is how long it takes to get through to 311. And I share that with my deputy chief, and I share that with his boss, Chief Tingarides. They're aware of it. A lot of it has to do with the city. A lot of it has to do with personnel. But hopefully we can get this thing remedied because we need more 911 operators and especially 311 operators. Because we don't get a lot of, there's not a ton of violent crime here on the west side, but it's more, quality of life issues and it's more property crime. And a lot of that stuff is geared towards the 311 side, which really doesn't have the resources right now. Everything we have as a department is geared towards the emergency side. So,
But you need highly trained specialists to handle 311 calls, it sounds like.
well, like I said, they cross train them. So they have to be able to do both jobs, 311 and 911. And the 911 people do take a specialized training to be able to do that job. Maybe I see what you're saying with the volunteer and the 311 be easy to write down the address with the pothole and then send it to street services.
That's it.
You would think that's not a very technical job, but the way the system is set up now is they cross train them all. So, I think that's a good point. I think
If you're the boss, you could change the system maybe a little bit.
yeah, I'm not in charge of that system, unfortunately. I'm only in charge of it here at West LA. So, but I just appreciate the question.
Captain, this is Karen again. I just wanted to suggest, is there not a way that after they don't get a response, couldn't they hit a button and just leave a demand or request so that you capture the data for demand and can show, the type of activity that's happening as well as the location and concentration and frequency, that would at least support you and justify money to get more officers if they could at least leave some kind of a verbal report
Okay, got it.
before they hang up.
Yeah, I think that would probably crash the system. There would be so many voicemails left.
Okay, but I have it. Karen brings up a good point. Could there be a system that calls you back? Right.
Yeah.
So when you call the airline, it says, if you don't want to wait, leave your number. We'll call you back. Could we do that so that we're not asking people to sit around and loiter for an hour and a half?
I'm not a subject matter expert on this, but maybe in the next meeting that we have, I'll bring someone from
Okay.
communication, like a sergeant or a lieutenant.
Great.
They can answer all these questions for you, real specific and with technical information. I think that would be good because,
Okay.
the 311 system, we just worry about crime. That's it. That's what our focus is on.
Okay,
So
sounds great. I very
that
much
information will be
appreciate
good.
everybody's time. Peter is on this call. Peter Friedman, who's a community member who spends a lot of time with us and is very thoughtful. He says just to be mindful of the bottlenecks that were on Sunset due to Malibu and Topanga Canyon and Sunset Mesa vehicular traffic. So I think the point is it'd be really good to have us practice getting out in a rush once in a while. So if we can find a way to fund that, that'd be great. I also want to say Tracy Park is trying to put through her climate resilience district. That would bring some money to this recovery. And one of the things that money could go towards, and she said this before at City Council, it could go towards planning for the evacuation, which is something that the state requires anyway. So I think we all need to sort of work on different pathways, right? Multiple things going on. But one of the things that as a community we could do would be to support the creation of a climate resilience district, because that would bring money and resources to this recovery. And a year into it, I think we can all agree we definitely need some money and resources in this recovery. So I thank you all for coming. Thank you, Captain. Thank you all the community leaders who come on these calls all the time. Arus, your hand is up. You want to say hello? Arus.
Hey, Miriam, just for the awareness for everybody, I've said this to PPCC, but I want everybody here in this call to know there is a major construction in Castellamar area, and it's a bulkhead construction compatible to the Mulholland Drive construction that happened in February 2024. There is going to be a lot of heavy equipments coming in and out of the area, and there is going to be active construction as well. For LAPD's attention, as well as for the community members' attention, Butnik is bringing and staging equipment in the area. There might be some street closures as well. We have given updates prior to this construction, and it's starting sooner than the scheduled date. Just an FYI for all of you. This is going to be a long-term recovery. Emergency road repairs will take until spring 2026, late spring. For all of your attention, if you have any questions about that, let us know. But if you see any activity in the area, it's Bureau of Engineering and their contractor doing emergency road repairs in Positano, and it's going to be major. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Arus. Thanks for letting us know that massive build is going on. And that brings another issue, which is our bulkheads, something I know that Tracy Park is looking at. So conversations continue. The bulkheads and PCH are both something that I think everyone realizes are somewhat more imperiled now than they ever were before. So again, money and resources. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. All of you, Lori, Sharon, Karen, John, Michael, Peter, everybody for being on these calls and lending your voice. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
thank you, Captain Dominguez.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Captain Dominguez, please send up the ladder again that this traumatized community does not need speeding tickets. Just, we'll pay them. We're happy to, but they are a bummer. People talk about it all the time. Stop at Garden Cafe and you'll hear it.
Gotcha. Thank you. Duly noted. We'll bring that up.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support and your eyeballs. Just go easy on the residents. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.